Mr. Garage here, and I'm going to be doing the simplest pork butt recipe on the planet to make some pulled pork out of your Pit Boss whiskey still. Um, I have figured out a total lazy man's way to do it, and it doesn't take almost any work at all. There's no wrapping, there's no doing all this crazy stuff all through the process. We are simply going to put a rub on this pork butt. We're going to slap it in our whiskey still smoker and we're going to let it run. And it comes out juicy with the most amazing bark you can imagine. And trust me on it, it works. I've done probably maybe 15 pork butts in this method, given it to family and friends, and zero complaints. Everybody loves it. So it really turns out well, and it's really simple without all the complication. Let's get to it. So I know I'll get blasted for this, but because this didn't come from some medicine man in the swamp in some bayou somewhere, and it's got magical herbs and properties to it, but whatever. Anyways, this is just a simple Kroger, Kansas City inspired seasoning rub, sweet and smoky. It actually has a little hint of spice to it, which is really, really nice. It just came from our local Fry's or Kroger brand store, private selection. I've got probably 50 rubs in the cabinet, and I got to say, this one I really like for pork butts specifically. So this is what we're going to use. Going to coat this sucker a couple of times to make sure it's just completely uniformly coated, and we'll move on to the next step. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, I go straight. Some people let it sit for hours. I've done that before. I can't really tell a difference, but what I do is I've got my rub on, and this thing is totally thawed out, which is super, super critical. I've noticed if it's cold in the middle, even a little bit, not frozen, but I'm talking like 40, 50 degrees, and you put it in to cook, takes a lot longer for one, and then for two, for whatever reason, I just don't like it quite as much as I do if the thing is totally thawed out. So I let this, I know it's kind of taboo in some ways with meats, but pork's not too bad. But I let it get to room temperature, and as soon as it hits room temperature, that's when I do my thing, and I go ahead and put the rub on, get it all prepped, and get my smoker prepped. So I'm going to go get a few other items, and we'll get out to the smoker and get this started. So this is one of the most critical parts of using my whiskey still smoker. Now, you've seen it on a previous video I've done, but this is just a very, very heavy ceramic plate. It's got a deep lip to it. And I tell you what, this makes a huge difference. So what I do is I just take some tin foil I'm going to lay out in this plate. And this plate is going to go underneath the pork butt. And it's separated by several inches, so it's not touching or anything. And the pork butt doesn't sit in it. But all the juices are going to fall into this dish from the pork butt. Now, while it's cooking, those juices are going to slowly boil, and you can actually see it boiling in the whiskey still. And it keeps the whole inside of the cabinet humid. You can actually feel kind of humid air coming out of the top of it. And it does that, and it kind of seems like the time frame matches up perfectly. So about when your pork butt is done is about when most of the fats have finished dripping into the plate and it's starting to dry out and you're all set. Now at that time is when the best bark is created, and it's just, it is unbelievable. It's ridiculously good. So I'm going to just line this with tinfoil. We'll put this in the bottom of the whiskey still, and we're going to get it all fired up. All right, we got the boss heating up, and it's starting to smoke like a freight train. And I'm gonna go ahead and crank the knob up to 270, and that puts the temperature right at the meat, right at about 250 degrees, which is where I want it. So we're gonna let it get nice and hot, and we'll go ahead and put our meat in and stick our probes in. And honestly, after that, all I'm gonna be doing is monitoring pellets about every 6 hours. So it's a super simple way to cook. All right, we're up to temp. I've got my probes in, and they just go right to the center of the meat. And I've got my wireless setup going, and we are good to shut the door and let this thing do its thing. All right, we are just about done. I've got 195 degrees meat temp on my wireless, and on my right here on my controller here. Both of those are plugged into the meat at the same point. We're getting it up to just about 200. We'll take a little peek at it, see how she looks. Oh man, that looks amazing. You can see it boiling down in there. We'll be pulling that out in just a little bit. All right, so we're all done here, and I'm just gonna kind of dig into it. It's still quite a bit hot. I don't let it rest or anything. I just dig right into these things and just start tearing them up here. So I mean, it's gonna be just awesome. Have to get my bear claws out, but yeah, got those right here, and we can just dig straight into that, just like that. And that is how I have been doing my pulled pork. It's quick, it's easy, and the results are just fantastic. The meat just shreds right up. So happy smoking. If you really like my videos, please subscribe, and I'll be trying to do more meats and more, different kinds of meats here in the future. But that's how I do the pulled pork. It's quick, easy. You don't really hardly even have to tend to it. You literally just put it in, smoke it until it's up to temp, and just shred it up, and it is perfect. All right, we've got it all shredded up, and that is perfect. And the bark, every time you get one of these, oh man, it is such good stuff. Little nugget. So anyways, yeah, enjoy.